What if you had the resources you needed for your mental health right at your fingertips? Imagine a world where our mental well-being is prioritized just like our physical health, and where we have access to the tools and support we need. That's exactly what the Make Mental Health Matter show is all about. Join Kelli Melissa Reinhardt, a true warrior for mental health, founder of Make Mental Health Matter nonprofit, author, and wellness coach. This show is your gateway to breaking down the stigma surrounding mental health. Tune in for enlightening conversations, expert insights, and empowering stories that will not only increase awareness, but also provide education about mental health. It's time to have those hard conversations, prioritize your well-being, and make your mental health matter. Your mental wellness journey starts here.
Welcome to another episode of the Make Mental Health Matter show. I'm so excited. I'm back in the studio, and I'm going to tell you about my guest, which you can see right here. But very exciting being back in the studio. It's been a while, really doing a lot more online, which, I don't know, it's just more fun being in person. So, a little bit before I go too in depth about my guest for today. And one other thing, I used to try to read it really super far away, and it was so tiny that I couldn't read it. And now I have it right next to me. Wow, evolution. But so Jennifer Clair is an evolutionary astrologer dedicated to helping individuals understand their inner landscape and align with their highest potential. Through a grounded, client-centered approach, she translates the language of the natal chart, okay, into a practical insight that supports personal growth, emotional clarity, and self-awareness. Her work emphasizes astrology as a tool for meaning, offering a deeper sense of direction, purpose, and connection to one's life path. So Jennifer believes that when people understand the why behind their experiences, they are better equipped to navigate challenges with resilience and intention. She integrates psychological insight with evolutionary astrology to support mental and emotional well-being in a way that is both empowering and accessible. So through consultations, education, and ongoing support, Jennifer helps clients cultivate a more conscious and compassionate relationship with themselves, which is so awesome. I'm going to preface this a little bit, and I'm going to have you tell a little, because I gave the bio of what you do specifically, but have you share more about your story, kind of how you got into this. But I will say I'm super excited because astrology and numerology and all of those things within the last several years now have been huge for me. And I know you and I have talked about that before, but I'm just excited. So without further ado, tell the audience a little bit about you and your story and why you got into this.
Yeah, so I got into this because, well, the short answer is through a series of synchronicities and my lifelong love of spirituality and psychology. So astrology is a bridge between spirituality and psychology. And when I was young, I was seeking the meaning of life. I was asking the question, why am I here? What is my purpose? And at first I thought I was going to find that through going to church and learning more about God. So while my friends in their early 20s were bar hopping, I was church hopping. I was literally just trying to find out what beliefs are going to resonate with me. And that set me on a stage to read a lot of books. I read the Bible front to back. I read the Bhagavad Gita, A Course in Miracles, and all of these spiritual texts, just trying to figure out why I was here. And ultimately what I realized is that God is not to be found in temples or books. God is to be found within each and every one of us. And so I started paying attention to who was showing up in my life and what were their messages for me. And that's really what led me into astrology, is it was the people that influenced me early on. So I'll just give you quick 3 examples. When I was in my early 20s, I was working at a natural grocer's. I was studying to become a nutritionist. And one of the managers there decided to do my natal chart for me. And he gave me all these notes in a book that sat on my shelf for 12 years before I ever opened it. So now I use that book almost daily when I'm interpreting charts. It's called Planets in Transit. But then I had no idea. So I planted the seed that astrology was going to be important later on. And then I had another astrologer come in a few years later who was a Vedic astrologer. She taught me a lot about Vedic astrology, gave me more conviction into what I do now, which is Western astrology and evolutionary astrology. And that was because I realized in that system I would have been a Capricorn, but in this one I am an Aquarius. So you have to kind of recognize that there's a lot of branches of astrology. Evolutionary astrology is under the umbrella of Western astrology, but Vedic has its own wonderful things to learn about as well. So, yeah, and my last experience was, and a part of my story is I was lost for many years in my early 20s and my early 30s even. I did not know what I wanted to do. I kept applying to grad school and then backing out for psychology because I thought I wanted to be a counselor. So when I finally was at a low place, my parents' friends recommended I go see their astrologer. And she's the one who encouraged me to go this direction. And over the course of several sessions, she said, you know, you've already learned a lot about astrology, so why don't you pursue this as a profession? And I was very surprised, but she believed in me. And sometimes it just takes one person to set you on a new path and give you permission to change your mind yet again.
Yeah. I mean, it's
It's a long story.
I feel like there's always like that one person. I've had those one people that they challenge, like my nonprofit. I had one person challenge me to raise the funds in 24 hours, and I was like, what? And then I'm like, okay. So, yeah, and it like set up the whole entire nonprofit and what I do now. So, yeah, I love that one person that helps guide you, but then giving yourself permission. I think that's huge.
Yeah, because so many people, in my eyes, so many people were judging me, and who knows if they actually were, for my lack of committing with things. And it was really just because I didn't feel like I should have to settle. I didn't have kids. I wasn't married. I was still free, right, to explore. And so I did. And finally, astrology, it hit all marks because it was spiritual. It involves counseling. It involves having this cheat sheet before me to a person's psyche, which is the natal chart. So I can now help people faster just by knowing how to interpret the symbols.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's all so fascinating. So I know I love to also bring guests who are more on, I call it the holistic side, but I don't know if it fits so much. I mean, I know astrology does more in that holistic spiritual space.
Yes.
And then I just talked to somebody the other day and we were talking about like the functional section of mental health. Like that's the other word, right? But that's much more clinical, I feel like. So, but I love guests who give us alternative ways of thinking, really, right? Because if we just get stuck in the mindset of like, I can only go to my general doctor, or I can only go to my psychologist or my counselor or my therapist, or, you know, like the traditional, which I'm not saying don't.
Right.
I'm just saying that it is also okay to be able to flex out of that and search other paths, which I think that's super cool, that you like found an astrologer and then you're like, ooh, maybe I should try this out.
Yeah. Yeah. It was having an open mind and also recognizing that, you know, I believe that we are a soul that's on a journey. And so evolutionary is about the study of your soul throughout this lifetime. But your natal chart is actually a blueprint of where you have been, or it's an imprint of your past. It's a snapshot of your future, and it's also a projection of your future. I think I might have said that wrong. Imprint of your present, and then a projection of your future. So basically, you have past, present, future you're looking at with this chart. And so you can really understand a person's course throughout life, and that gives them direction.
So cool. And let me see, I'll show.
Yeah.
So I know she has my chart which
Yep.
I'm so excited about.
Mhm.
But I'll put this up here just so you can kind of see a little bit more. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, which I'm so excited because I look at it and I'm like, ooh, there's a lot of points. I don't know what any of this means. But you did also confirm, I mean, Leo, right? Like that's been a lot of, well, I guess it hasn't been like all of my identity, but I have always known that I'm a Leo, and there was a long, long time that I didn't fit into that, or I didn't believe that I fit into that. I, if you asked other people, they would probably tell you different, but but then it leads into these spaces that I feel like I do fit a little bit more in that Leo energy in a way. So
Absolutely. Do you resonate more with Aquarius by chance? That idea of just being an individual and not caring if people follow you, not caring if you have to be a leader. Like Aquarius is someone who's going to perhaps get tattoos, right? They don't mind if they're going kind of against a status quo. They don't mind walking their own path and raising some eyebrows. And being a rebel, like completely a rebel against authority figures. That is
like,
part of Aquarius.
No. I mean, in a way, so I felt like I was like the black sheep of the family in a way, but I feel like a lot of people feel that way, right? But I was very, especially when I was younger. So in the 90s, it was cool to mismatch, right? Like the checkers, and then I'd do different socks, and everything was mismatched. And I love like mismatched socks and all of those things. So yes, I very much, and I didn't really like, I think I did care. Like I cared a lot and I was trying to fit in, but then I also had like that rebel inside of me. I was like, do I really care? Right? So I guess I kind of have gone back and forth about those things. I match more now than I ever have, but I think that's an influence on my husband. So yeah, that's
pretty funny.
interesting.
Well, the reason I say Aquarius is for a very specific reason. So in evolutionary astrology, we look at 2 points very strongly, the north node and the south node of the moon. I won't get into the description at this moment, but you have Aquarius south node, which would imply that in a past life you were an Aquarius. So you brought in all these Aquarian traits. And in this life, you are here to be a Leo, as your sun side is, but also the point of your life purpose. So it's fascinating to know that you're here to become more comfortable in presenting and being a leader and having followers and being just self-confident in your own image.
Ooh, that is cool.
Yeah.
Because I mean, even with the show, right? I was like, I just started it because somebody challenged me. It happens a lot in my life. But I was like, yeah, sure, why not? And then the first, like, I mean, going live was really hard for me the very first time. And then once I've gotten more confidence, and I mean, there's about 170-ish thousand people that watch or listen to the show now. But for me, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I feel like in a way I still kind of shrink myself down a little bit because I'm like, that's cool, but then all these other people have 1 million subscribers or whatever it is, right? And not that that's been not a challenging feat, right, to get to that place, but also knowing that when I say that to some people, they're like, whoa, that's a lot. And I'm like, oh, that is a lot, right? So then it's like that confidence, right? Like stepping into the confidence and being like, yeah, I have built that. Like it's not just because people, you know, yes. So I feel that with the leadership thing and the confidence and stepping into that. So
Yeah. And I think those people that came into your life were challengers, teachers, mentors on purpose to get you here doing this, sharing a message that people need to know about.
yeah.
So I was just going to say, I think you're fulfilling your purpose great with this mission. And I also think sometimes our purpose doesn't show up until later in our life. So for me, it was like my late 30s. And for you, it was probably, was it similar?
Yeah, it was. I'm like, how old was I? I'm like, well, my sister passed. It was 9 years ago. And it took probably a good I mean, 3 or 4 years to like really step in. It was more of a side project than a nonprofit. And then speaking was not on the books back in the day. So yeah, probably about 4 years after that. So I was, I mean, 30s, like late, mid 30s.
Yeah.
Around then. Yeah.
So for all the people listening who sometimes feel like they're lost and they keep trying all these different things, my encouragement would be sometimes you don't get your convictions until you've lived enough life. So you just have to keep trying things until you really find what you love to do.
Yeah.
And having that direction is important, whether it's through astrology, psychology, or a strong mentor who knows you and who knows your strengths and who can guide you.
Yeah. I mean, even in my working career, there were often times that I had people telling me to go for like leadership positions because I was like, I can't do that. And then they're like, no, you're already pretty much pegged to be in that position. And I was like, that's not right. And there was one that I remember. So I worked for a large corporation in telecommunication, and we had a manager who was about to leave, and they said, you need to go apply for this supervisor role. And I was like, no. And I bombed the interview. I mean, bombed it. It was horrible. Like, think back, he's like, what does leadership to you mean? And I was like, leadership to me means leadership. Like, it was like horrible. So there were even that, and I still got the job. Fascinating, right? But it was those people that were like, hey, you need to go for this position. And at that time I was like, no, I'm not ready. But moving into it, then it became more of this confidence of like, oh, okay, now I see what they see.
Yeah.
So yes, there's been lots of times throughout time. We're going to go to our quick first sponsored break. And then once we get back, we can chat more about, I just think it's so fascinating. So we'll be right back after this quick sponsored break.
Have you ever felt completely alone?
Like your life doesn't matter.
One person dies due to suicide every 40 seconds.
You are not alone. Call the National Suicide Lifeline at 988.
Hope and recovery is possible.
1 in 8 people globally live with a mental disorder.
That's why empowering minds saves lives.
We need your help.
With only $19 a month, you help us save lives through mental health and suicide prevention education.
Scan the QR code or go to makementalhealthmatter.org to sign up as a warrior for mental health today.
And like that, we're back. If you happen to be just tuning into the Make Mental Health Matter show, thank you so much, whether you are watching or listening. My guest, Jennifer, and I are talking about astrology. Did I say? Okay. I was like, astronomy. All the S's pop into my head, and I was like, what's happening? So really talking about, before we went to the break, we were talking about mentors and how certain people step into your life at pivotal moments, really. And they're, I mean, at least for me, I think of them kind of as guides, right? Like most of them I paid as my mentor, but for whatever reason, they seem to be that one that I needed at that moment. So I know you had said that you had a mentors, and then I jumped in. So do you want to share a little bit more about that?
I think all I wanted to say was that I've been studying astrology for over 20 years, but I never knew that it could be a career, so I never even considered it. I take a lot of time when I prepare my notes and my charts for people because I've always had this fear that I might be wrong. So now I'm kind of going into what can stop us from following what we feel inside we want to do. My fear was that I might not know enough, I might be wrong. And so I take so much time to prepare. And the older I get and the more I work with clients, the more I realize that the magic happens in the session. The things you need to know come, and it's not always about prior preparation, although that is still a major value of mine as an astrologer, is to prepare well in advance for people and make sure they get the advice that they really most want to hear, need to hear.
Yeah, I think so. Last week, I know you don't know this, but on my last show last week, I talked about preparation and how I don't prepare for the show. I kind of gave a behind the scenes of being a podcast or show host, but also like how preparation also plays a part in your mental health. Because when you're not prepared well enough, sometimes it can really super stress you out.
Yes.
And then it affects your mental health even more. But then people like me, when I prepare too much, I forget. And so I also, when you said that, because I don't want to get it wrong either. And I don't want to forget to ask a question or like guide people in a certain way, because that's generally not how my brain functions. The same kind of goes with when I speak, is that I have a framework that I use, but it doesn't always go the same way, because I also believe that when I can authentically like tap into the audience to be able to bring the message they need, not so much what I'm trying to get them to know, it works so much better. And it took me a long time to get that place. So
yeah, I'm still working on all of that and presenting and being on videos and all of that. But yeah, I am the type of person who absolutely needs to prepare for my mental health because then I feel like even if I go off, my brain goes, well, you got ready for this.
Oh, yeah.
So
your unconscious mind knows that you are prepared.
Yes,
that's awesome.
Exactly. Even if things go a whole different direction. And I think it all comes with time and experience, being able to speak and know what to say, when to pause, all the things.
Yeah. Well, and I've also taken a lot of classes on. So
that
it's not
wonderful.
all that it just like fell in my lap. I searched out the actual trainers that could train on those specific things.
Yeah.
Most of the time I listened, it's like that rebel inside of me, like, do I need this or don't I? Throw it away, it's fine. And I tell people that now too, is like, take what I say if it works for you, and then leave the rest if it doesn't, right?
Yes,
and I think that's the way I guide my life in a way.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
I think that's wonderful. Well, one thing that you can learn from looking at your chart that I think is important for people who are feeling lost is why you're here. Like that ultimate question of purpose, but also why have you had to go through these hard events that you've had to go through? And just by recognizing that can give you confidence to recognize you didn't do anything wrong. You don't have to hold on to this guilt and this shame. It was actually all a part of your soul's decision and part of the plan for your life. So not only is astrology giving you direction, but it's giving you validation of your path, which I think is helpful for people struggling to move forward.
Yeah, I mean, just the process, and I've talked about this a little bit on the show, but also had other guests that we talk about that process of healing, right? Like actually giving yourself permission to heal, because sometimes people get stuck in that mousetrap, that's not the right word, but the spiral of grief and loss, and they're like, no, this is mine, I don't want to let go, or they have those stacking that happen that it's hard to get out of that cycle. So I think that's super cool, and I'm so excited to look through all of it too.
Yeah, it's helpful. It's helpful as a guide. It can also tell someone, give them information about a career choice. I mean, that's what I struggled with for so long. But then when I found out I'm here to develop communication skills, I'm here to write, I'm here to teach, I'm here to counsel, it was like very specific. So when you do evolutionary astrology, you see the soul's journey and you can see what area of life is it mostly needing to focus on, and then what qualities and skills does it mostly need to develop. And that's why it's really like a compass. It's very helpful to point you in the right direction.
Yeah, that's so cool. I mean,
yeah. So I don't know if you want me to say a couple things about your chart.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
But it does, your life purpose point happens to be in what we call the first house, which is the area of life that is about you. Everybody sees you, your appearance, your personal style, your first impression. So for you, it's very important to be seen in the world. Even if it was initially uncomfortable. Did you ever have any insecurities around like public visibility?
Well, I mean, when I had to take public speaking in college, it was the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
I was like holding a piece of paper and standing up there doing this, and then I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to pass out. So yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and so it's interesting to see too that you are not only here to be, on stage sharing information with people in this Leo self-confident way, but you've also come from, if we are considering past lives, you had not the opportunity to do that in the past because you were in a relationship that was perhaps holding you back. There's a whole long story that I talk about with this. We call it the nodal story in evolutionary astrology, where you've been and where you're going. But the short answer here is that someone might have held you back from being who you're really meant to be. So in this life, you came in very sure that you needed to create your own identity and not just be like, someone's wife, someone's partner.
Yeah.
And yeah, and it would not be surprising to me if it took you longer to find your voice and to feel comfortable with it, because you have planets in what we call the 12th house, which is our unconscious mind, and you have Mercury there. I could go on, but you are very good nurturing communicator. So you make people very comfortable with your words. You're very warm and inviting. So the Mercury sign tells us how someone communicates, and you have that in Cancer. So you might have thought, I don't know anything about Cancer. I don't have any Cancer in my chart, but you actually do. So that's another thing we point out. People are not just their sun sign. They're not just their moon sign. They've got all parts to their psyche based on their planets that are in their chart.
That's so cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been following this app that's kind of about astrology,
Mm-hmm.
and some of that has been like brought up a little bit, right? Like, but I don't fully understand. Now that you're saying
Yeah.
it, it makes more sense in my brain. But because I think I'm on the like the Cancer Leo border,
Yes,
technically.
you are. You're a 2-degree Leo. So you do have some Cancer energy in you. And not just because of that, but because you actually have Mercury, a planet, which is a major planet for your personality and how you communicate with others.
That's cool. I do
So-
often, my guests are like, that was really easy. I'm like, good. That's the whole point, right?
Yes, you make things comfortable for people and easy and not intimidating.
That's
So,
good. It's,
yeah.
I mean, if you think about the non, right? Like that's everything that we're trying to do is like make conversations just about mental health, substance use, or suicide, right? To be
Yes.
comfortable and
Yes.
normal. So I'm glad that shows up even in my chart.
Yeah. Yeah, there was something in my notes that I had wanted to mention too, that when you understand your whole makeup, you are less well, and you understand what your purpose is, you're more willing to want to get up and serve every day. But when you don't know, you're not sure how you're supposed to serve, and so you fall into depression, or you succumb to addictive tendencies. And so even just having a general understanding of what you're here to do, and then be able to serve people through that meaningful way will keep you healthier mentally.
Yeah. And so that kind of makes me think about people talk about how you become misaligned, or I'm trying to remember what was the very first like process that kind of took me. Oh, it was really the same mentor that I was talking about earlier that like was challenged me for the nonprofit.
Mm-hmm.
But he also taught like your mission, your vision, and then what are the values and how do those align with like what you're wanting to do professionally.
Yeah.
And when I did it originally, it was just pen to paper trying to like brainstorm ideas because I had no idea at that point. But as I've moved forward in the nonprofit and in my career, it becomes much more aligned, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I love I've always, so if you're listening and you're an event planner, I want to get on bigger stages. Like that's one of my big goals, because I feel like me in front of people is much more powerful than me just behind the screen, right?
Yeah.
And then when I can be in front of big crowds, then that means that I'm able to impact more lives.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah.
I love that.
I think that is wonderful, especially according to your chart. And you have Sun right along this line, the ascendant. And so that implies that you have a lot of vitality, you have a lot of positive energy that people will feel when you get up. It's like the sun is radiating out to everyone, your core essence, more so than if it was anywhere else in the chart. So it's very good for a presenter a speaker.
I need more
Yeah.
gigs. Just kidding.
Yeah. I think the universe will bring them to you.
Oh, yeah. Come on, universe. Thank you. Yes. Amazing.
Yeah.
And I know I don't want to take up all the time with my chart. I mean, I totally could. But I know there were some other like general information that you wanted to give, whether it's on my chart just for better understanding for people. And so if you're not familiar, you do go based off of the day you were born. So month, day, year, and then the time. So it's very important to know that aspect, which I remember the first time somebody asked me for that information, I was like, I don't even know what time I was born. But I remember when my children were born.
Yes, that is good because a lot of moms don't.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, I remember those.
Well, and you also need to know the location. So you were born in Utah. So you need to know the city and the state. And the reason is anywhere you are on the earth is going to change what sky you see at night. And so we're basing this on the stars that were, not the stars, the planets that were out at the time of your birth. So really when we talk about astrology, we're looking at the planets. Some astrologers look at asteroids, and some astrologers look at the lunar nodes of the moon, which are just mathematical points where the moon crosses the ecliptic. So the reason is everything has a meaning about your psyche. You can think of every planet as something that represents how you think or how you relate to others, or, you know, Saturn is your work that you're here to do in the world. You have Saturn in Virgo, which is very much about getting into things deeply, paying attention to details, helping people from a health perspective. So Virgo rules health in the physical body. So by doing Mental Health Matters, you're helping the health of everyone's mind.
Wow. It even shows in my chart. That's cool. Yeah,
so in a reading, what an astrologer does is lots of research beforehand, so they can just tell you a story and make, let it flow. This is things that are off the cuff, which is much harder for me to do than, having a whole chart prepared ahead of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think it's important that, if someone is lost, they're looking for direction, they're looking for meaning, they're wanting to deepen their connections with their loved ones, because the more you understand yourself, the more you understand what you need in a relationship and what better boundaries you need to have. Which is often a hard thing that gets us into trouble in relationships. We don't have strong enough boundaries.
Yeah. I'm like, that's a whole nother show.
It's a whole nother show, right. But astrology is a shortcut to all of it. And then you walk out and you go, okay, I understand why I'm this way. I understand my core wound, Chiron. You can tell me if this resonates with you. I have this same wound. We both have Chiron and Taurus, which means that we've often felt like we're not enough and that we have to improve in some way or overachieve, or that something lacking in us. So understanding that is huge in and of itself, because it can break a negative pattern or a negative belief system.
Oh, yeah. The imposter syndrome, which I tried to put that word out of my everything, and I couldn't recall it for the longest time, and then I think I brought it back, and I was like, okay, it needs to go back away. But yeah, very much but it's not like, it's almost, if I could explain it as a feeling, it's like anxiety in a way, but it's not like true anxiety. It's just that the lack of, right? And I don't, sometimes it comes in the form of like drinking, like I don't have enough water, or like that's the feeling that it kind of invokes in me, which is interesting, but I'm getting more aware of it now. And I'm like, okay, what is happening? Like, what am I thinking about? Or what is, and luckily I've done a lot of work on myself and learning about the unconscious mind.
Yes.
But without that training, I know it probably would show up like in anxiety or depression, because you're not aligning.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one other thing I wanted to say about your chart, you have a Capricorn moon, and the moon represents our heart and our emotional default behavior. So Capricorn is the ultimate businessman or businesswoman. So what it would imply is that you would be great at having your own business, you'd be responsible, you'd be able to meet your deadlines and create events, do the things you're doing now. So it also makes you emotionally strong to make the hard decisions that you have to in business.
Wow.
Stay afloat.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I never thought I would ever have my own business.
And
Like, I
you
was very much
do.
set in that employee mindset back in the day. And then once I stepped in, I was like, oh, well, this is pretty cool, right?
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I've also had those moments that I'm like, I might have to go back to be an employee. And then I'm like, how could I ever do that after being in this space?
Yeah,
So
it's hard.
I do. It's like this, there's always, I feel, not always, but there is a juggle when you are an entrepreneur, when you have a business, that because it takes time and
So much
not
time.
everybody wants to wait for the time. I do become impatient.
Yeah.
But when you, which is super cool that you bring that up, because just knowing that part, which is what you're saying with the whole entire thing, is that it reassures or reaffirms the path that we are on, maybe,
Yes.
or the path that we've thought about forever and ever is really truly something that, like, we need to tap into.
Yes, absolutely.
That's so cool. We're going to go to our quick last sponsor break. And then once we get back, I don't know, we'll talk some more. So we'll be right back after this quick sponsor break.
1,917 people die daily from suicide globally.
I lost my middle sister, Carrie, to a completed suicide on February 20th, 2017.
How does Kelli, host of the Make Mental Health Matter show, impact lives?
Number 1. Awareness.
My story, however, it isn't unique. I am a domestic violence survivor and a recovering addict. For 14 years, I was in active addiction. And because of Kelli and the work that she does and the opportunity to have my voice heard, I was able to stay clean and sober and have hit a year. I'm still here. And if it wasn't for Kelli answering my call the day that I thought I was going to take my life.
2. Conversation.
I'm curious, and I know that I've heard a lot in the BIPOC community, it is very hush-hush. It's like one of those things that you don't talk about. Like, you literally feel like it's not a conversation you can have. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
First, shout out to Kelli, because I'm glad that she asked the question. I researched you before I went on your show, and I saw how real and authentic you were. And I just appreciate the question, because it is different and we have to have tough, courageous conversations. So yes, I always say I'm a triple diversity threat. I'm a Black woman with multiple disabilities. Now, I'm not really a threat, but to other people, I may be, because people fear the unknown and what they're uncomfortable with.
Number 3. Education.
Kelli's passionate commitment to mental health awareness is a beautiful thing. It's clear in her social media posts, it's clear in the resources that she puts together, in the activities that she provides, her collaboration with organizations, and the consistent way that she continues to deliver a message encouraging people to understand that they can share openly and to break the stigma around mental health. Kelli's topics cover children and adults, talk about things that we can do as a community, things that we can do individually, and her website is packed with information and resources and all kinds of contacts that you can use to reach out, whether you're dealing with something yourself or you're looking to help somebody else who is struggling. I encourage you to check it out.
And like that, we're back again. If you happen to be just tuning into the Make Mental Health Matter show, make sure you go back because you just missed the whole beginning. But today, my guest, Jennifer, and I are talking about astrology and understanding what that means for you as an individual. I feel like there's never is not the right word, but being able to understand ourselves is so important, because if we don't know how we function, or we don't know, like you're talking about the souls, like what aligns with your soul and what you're meant to be doing, which is like so cool, because she has my chart and I'm like, ooh, this really means that I've had this, I'm like going in multiple directions because my brain's like, I've had multiple guests in the past ask me, because my sister died by suicide, and they're like, do you think that your sister led you to this journey? And when I was like, ooh, that got me. When it was first said, I was like, that's creepy in a way, right? Like at first I was like, that's kind of crappy to say just because of how she died. But then I like processed it, right? And I started learning a lot more about myself and who I was. And then I was like, you know, like the next time somebody said it, I was like, I believe that there was some guidance, right? Or a reason. The unfortunate, like you were talking about earlier, is like your past and how the past leads you into the things that oh, see, it's gonna get me today.
It so does.
But
it so does.
Yeah, it's fascinating to know.
Well, and it doesn't matter how old you are. You can always look at your natal chart for validation and for remembering, because we forget. And then I will go into a transit chart next to explain why you could be 80 and you could still be having important things happening in your life that you want to know about. But for you, I just want to validate what you just said. You said, you know, someone said that might have been part of your purpose. I got the chills because I couldn't agree more in terms of your chart has messages coming through. I'll say it that way, you know, planets in the 12th house. The 12th house has to do with loss. It has to do with having to say goodbye. And usually, whenever there are placements there, someone has had to deal with some kind of loss. And so I agree with that person that maybe it was a part of your journey. And yeah, everything does happen for a reason. So
yeah, and I know it's always well. And I was having conversations with another friend that we were talking about. I mean, just losses to suicide and how it is very unknowing. There's a lot of factors unknowing, right?
Yeah.
But we were also talking about, because a lot of people assume that it's very selfish, but it's not, right? Like it's not a selfish act, but that's a whole nother whole nother program too. Right. But what I'm saying is that like with losses, because I also have heard like psychic mediums talk about how the souls, and I've had a couple other guests that they call it transitioning versus death or dying, because the souls are transitioned into a different form, right? It all depends on what you believe and all, right? But when I even heard that the first time, I was like, that's and I had to process that too, and I was like, wow. Because in the human form, I also have another friend who calls us our meat suit.
Yes.
And so and I was like, what are you talking about? So all this information over the years, right, brings understanding. Yeah. But also when we have a loss that is so close to us, oftentimes it ties us to that specific moment.
Yes.
And if we're not able to like work through, because you can't just shove it down because it'll come back up. But if we work through it and we start processing what has happened to be able to move to a better place in life, like I say now that I celebrate my sister's life, right? Yeah. Like I no longer want to stay in the grief and loss because that's not where I am anymore. Yeah. But there's a lot of people that don't understand that either. So just being able to understand, like what you just said, is that there is in the planets that even shows that people have gone through these things to step into their purpose. And it may feel really, really crappy at first that you're like, well, so-and-so had a diet or whatever happened, right? You're like, ugh, that's horrible to think that way. But when you like look from the backside, and I always said, I was like, my sister always believed in me more than I did back in the day. I was like, yep, it's true.
And do you think you could have had any more conviction to do what you do now if that hadn't happened?
No, I would have and I was working with another nonprofit, and I probably would have been fine just doing that. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So this stretched you out of your limits, but also makes you personally make a bigger impact.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. It says it in the chart.
It does. She's a Leo rising and a Leo sun, if you didn't catch that before.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So what I wanted to say about what astrologers look at when they're trying to determine what's upcoming in someone's life or even what has happened in the past. We call this a transit chart. And the transit chart basically shows us the interaction of planets moving in the sky with what's happening in your natal chart. And so like you, if you don't mind me saying your age?
Oh, yeah. So well, how old am I? I will be 46 this year.
46 this year. So you, in your early 40s, you had something called the Uranus opposition, which is a major turning point where you decide you need to make some changes in your business, in your life. Everyone experiences it. And the joke is that it's when people get a divorce, get a red convertible, and go to the West Coast. They make these major life changes because they're sick and tired of just doing what everyone's always told them to do. So there's this sense of individuation. There's this sense of wanting to be a nonconformist and you really stepping into your own authenticity. So that happens in your early 40s. Then once you reach 50, you have something called the Chiron return, which is about you healing old wounds that you've been carrying for a long time. So you might have interactions with people or circumstances come into your life that make them more aware to you. It's not always comfortable, but it's also a wake-up call that you need to handle this now. So in my sessions, I try and prepare people before they reach that point to be like, how are you doing emotionally? How are you feeling with anything that's been, an issue in the past, in relationships or whatever, career?
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. I mean, so because the midlife crisis, right?
Yeah, the midlife. I like to call it a midlife turning point or transition.
Yeah. I like that better. But I've heard a lot of people because I feel like 50 is the new 40 and, because we're living longer than we used to.
Yes.
But also I called her my oldest sister. I don't know why but eldest sounds weird too. So my oldest sister out of all the girls, she is in her 50s and she was like, I mean, I've heard so many people now that get into the 50s and they're like, this is the best life I've ever had. So it's fascinating.
Yeah, there's also something to be said about you awakening more spiritually after the age of 50. So all of a sudden you care less about what other people think. You're able to absorb more of your own intuition. And it just makes sense. You've lived that much life. You should have earned it by then.
Yeah. I mean, I noticed even lately, I'm like, I don't really care. Well, I mean, I care, but I don't care. But it's the whole... I did a whole show about wearing makeup or not wearing makeup. And that's another thing for me because makeup was always the thing, right? Growing up, fashion, all the things. And then now I'm like, I don't really care. Like I finally feel comfortable leaving the house without makeup or doing things all the time without makeup, and I'm like, well, this is interesting, but it's one of those I don't really care anymore.
I can so relate to that. Just after maybe I'm 42, probably when I was maybe 41, I was realizing that I was more comfortable leaving the house with makeup on, but I still will always wear it when I'm on camera.
Right. I know. Otherwise, we would be really pale. So
that's for sure. Yeah. Not quite that.
Yes.
Comfortable yet.
Right.
Future.
I know it is interesting, that 45 mark for whatever reason. So my sister actually passed when she was 43, and so I was the baby of all the girls, and so I couldn't ever remember what her age was until after I turned 43. And that year was a really weird year for me. But I think it was just because my unconscious mind was thinking I'm going to be older than my sister. Yeah. And so then when I turned 44, I was like, I'm having a party. One, because I was 44 in an 8 year. So the numerology came into play. And so I was like, party. And then once I hit 45, I was like, I don't give a crap anymore. It's fascinating. So
yeah, I think there's such a gift to aging because your mind changes, hopefully for the better if you're more comfortable in your skin. But
yes,
that's what I look forward to. And just worrying less about the small things and realizing that you're here to show up for other people and for service, and it's not about you. Everyone is so self-conscious when they're young, though, because they're told you have to look a certain way, you have to be a certain way, and there's a lot of pressure, especially on women.
Yes, yeah.
No doubt.
Right? Yeah, and it's definitely... As you get older, I actually, there was a video that they call it Level Up. I was like, ooh, I like that one. I'm going to level up to 46 this year.
Yeah. So no matter how old you are in astrology, even beyond 50, I wrote an entire blog on all the important ages in astrology where we have significant transitions that we want to be prepared for. And so as you can just see looking at your chart, all of these planets move around at different speeds and they interact with different areas of life. All of these areas are different areas of life. So it's very fascinating to learn about. And yeah, part of the reason I created a membership was for people who can't read this chart, who don't know what these symbols mean, but they want regular guidance. It's very affordable. And it's called the Conscious Compass membership.
Oh, cool.
And that's because I believe astrology can be a compass and it can guide us all throughout life.
It looks like a compass too.
It does.
Yes. Well, I would
Yeah.
love, so we have about, I mean, we still have like 6-ish minutes, but I would love for you to just share a little bit more about your business specifically. I know you already talked about like, you were like, I don't know if I'm going to do this, but like always, right? But like, so when somebody comes in, because we've talked about a couple different things, but when they come in, or do you do online also?
Yeah, I only do online right now.
Cool. Okay.
So, yep, I do Zoom calls, so it can be anyone, anywhere.
Oh, cool. Okay, so awesome. But talk about, so when somebody comes to see you,
Yes.
What should they expect?
So they should expect to get an email with a questionnaire because I first want to know what are your main goals, what are your questions, how familiar are you with astrology, and then I know where to begin. But no matter what, I recommend getting a full evolutionary astrology reading first because that's where I go into your natal chart. I tell you the story of your soul, why you're here, and then I also tell you about what's happening in your life currently right now. So you're getting like two readings in one, basically. And then all follow-up readings are just going to be, you know, what are your questions and what's happening for you in the current moment, or if you have questions about the future, maybe an event's coming up. But so how you work with me is I send you the questionnaire, you send it back, create your chart, I do research on your chart ahead of time, and then once we do the 90-minute call, that's recorded and you have that for life to look back upon, and then you get a follow-up email with all of my notes so that you have that as a resource as well. And I offer several different types of readings, so if you have a child and you want the children's chart to be done before you know, they grow up and you can kind of guide them. I do children's charts, I do individual readings, I do couples readings, which are really fun because then I look at each person's chart. And this is not about compatibility as much as it is just what areas do you see eye to eye and where do you need to compromise a little more. So no couples are ever incompatible in my mind. It's just a matter of, you know, how easy is this going to be and how challenging is this going to be?
How do you support each other?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, I'm like giggling, but I think that's fascinating. Just, I was like, my brain at first when you said that, I was like, so how many couples have gotten divorced? But it's not about that, right? It's about how do you support each other in knowing that that is where their soul is aligned and your soul is aligned over here. And then, I mean, there's always a reason why people come together, right? Even just relationships, friendships.
Yes.
And so it's like, even though, and I always say, if I don't share the same beliefs or I don't share the same, like we can agree to disagree and that's totally okay, right?
Yes.
We can still be friends.
Yes.
So I think that's the same with relationships for sure.
Yeah, and you can even do boss coworker, or I just had a father and a daughter recently. So if you just want to learn more about each other and how to get along more harmoniously, that's the ultimate goal.
I love that. And then from there, you said that you can do the membership so that you understand what all these mean.
Yeah, especially for people who want to learn about their chart more and how to understand it. We meet monthly through what I call the astrology circle, and then also I meet one-on-one with people. So there's a community call once a month, and then there's a one-on-one. Actually, that is every 3 months that you have your own little reading. Or you can just come to see me for a one-off reading whenever you need some guidance.
That's so cool. So do these, I guess the question that pops into my head is, do they shift and change?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Oh, absolutely. The chart information shifts and changes. So, for example, tomorrow, the planet Uranus moves into Gemini, which means in everyone's chart collectively, Uranus is moving into the sign Gemini. But the individual part is where is that happening in your chart and what aspects are being made to it that mean certain things about your life. So, and every day planets move, which interacts with your chart. So yes, there's always changes in your life, and we can see that through your chart.
That's a lot of information.
It is.
Good thing you do it and I don't do it. But that's cool. That's so cool. And I know that even like back in the day, right? Like that's how they knew what was happening in the world, right? Because they would check in with the planets and the alignment and all the things. So, fascinating.
It is. Well, here's one thing. Carl Jung, like the modern psychologist, the one who, what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say two things at once. He was the founder of modern psychology, and he was famously known for not wanting to sit with people until he first read their birth chart. So he was very much into astrology because he saw it as a cheat sheet to the person's psyche. So yes, we have been studying astrology for over 4,000 years, but now it's becoming more mainstream, and we see how it helps us not only psychologically but spiritually too.
That's cool. Psychology is one of my minor. So so I learned a lot about Jung and Freud, and fascinating. But now knowing that. So how, if somebody wants to work with you, how do they find you?
So my website is jenniferclairastrology.com, and for anyone who is interested, well, I have social media on my website. From there you can find Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And then I also have an offer for anyone who is interested in getting $25 off. It's a coupon, and you just have to use the code capital MHM for Mental Health Matters and 25 at checkout on my website. So we can put that in the notes, I'm sure. And then the website, jenniferclairastrology.com.
Cool. And it's Jennifer Clair, CLAIR.com. So JenniferClair.com. Those are
then astrology.
Oh, and astrology. Sorry. So Jennifer Clair Astrology.com. I will put it in the show notes, but those of you that are listening, just so that you have it, but look in the show notes and you can definitely tap in or connect with Jennifer. So thank you so much for being an amazing guest. Is there any last final thoughts that you want to share?
I just want to say thank you to you for having me on your show and for all that you do for everyone. It's wonderful.
I appreciate it. All right, y'all, that was another amazing episode of the Make Mental Health Matter show. Make sure you come back next week. I go live every single Monday at 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. on Dream Vision 7 Radio, or you can watch on E360 TV at 5 p.m. Mountain Denver time. No matter what, I will catch you next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Thank you for joining today for the Make Mental Health Matter show. We hope you found today's episode insightful and empowering. Remember, your mental health journey doesn't end here. For more resources, support, and information, visit us online at makementalhealthmatter.org. You won't forget to subscribe to our show or follow us on social media to stay connected and continue the conversation, will you? That's right. Together, let's make mental health matter. Until